Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Governor Cuomo was there. So was Senator Gillibrand and Speaker Mark Viverito. Congress members Crowley and Mang and Borough President Brewer were there too. And Daily News Editor-in-Chief Colin Myler. And more than 400 volunteers. Those were some of the folks at the 13th Annual CUNY Daily News Citizenship Now program at CUNY's Gutman College. Here to talk about Citizenship Now and all things immigration is Allan Wernick. Allan is professor of law at Baruch College. He is chair of the CUNY Citizenship and Immigration Project. He is also the immigration law columnist for the New York Daily News. His pieces appear there twice weekly. And also the fourth edition of his U.S. Immigration Citizenship, Your Complete Guide, was released in 2004, and his newest edition, Wernick's Guide to Citizenship and Immigration Law, will be released in September 2015. Congratulations, Allan.
Thank you so much.
Now it's Wernick's Guide?
Wow,
you get billing? You're that good?
After a while you get older.
Oh, man, holy moly. Welcome back, and we've talked many times. I looked at the transcripts of the shows. We did the first one in 2004, and I looked at the variety of shows that we've done, and the only thing I conclude is the more things change, the more they remain the same. We're dealing with some of the same things we dealt with 11 years ago. But before we get into immigration, let's talk about Citizenship Now and the CUNY Dreamers. Give me some history, background, etc.
Well, CUNY Citizenship Now, the institution as part of the City University, started about 19 years ago. It grew out of a very robust voter registration program that CUNY has run for many years. And of course, permanent residents can't vote. So some of the student leaders who are part of the voter registration drive went to the administration and said, let's do something to help these people.
Sure.
So that's how we launched. We started as a campus-based project for this students, staff, faculty, their friends and family. We didn't turn anyone away, but we didn't market outside the university. Mm-hmm. Today we help over 10,000 people a year. We have 6 centers located throughout New York City that run full-time, provide free immigration services to the community. Every other weekend, we're out in some neighborhood with our citizenship drive. We have the largest and most robust volunteer program of any immigration or any kind of law.
It's really astounding.
Service. It's amazing.
Congratulations.
So we're everywhere. We're helping thousands of people, and I should say it's a great tribute to the university that it sponsors and supports something like this. It's definitely a public interest lawyer's dream to be running a project based out of a university and to get the support that we get.
And then you've got this relationship with the Daily News, and the Daily News has been very active both in participating but also in the very extensive coverage that it's given the program.
Well, the news covers immigration in New York City, and
you're their columnist on top of it.
I'm the columnist, but they also have reporter Erica Pearson, who does an excellent job of covering the issues in New York City, in the immigrant community. 13 years ago, the Vice Chancellor Jay Hershenson, who I report to in the university, who sort of is the senior administrator on this project, and the Daily News editor at the time, Martin Dunn, got together and decided to do this call-in, and they asked me to help run it. And we started with only 24 phone lines. We had 3 in Spanish, 21 in English, and people were asking me, is this really going to work? Are people going to call in? I said, yes.
Well, it was a question. Go ahead.
People were nervous about it. I wasn't. There were so many calls came in that the Daily News phone lines collapsed for 2 hours. They had to bring in special technicians to fix it. So it's been going on since then. We've helped over 140,000 individuals with some kind of answering their questions. We refer people to not-for-profit agencies that can help them after the call-in. So this is a sort of a win-win. Of course, the Daily News also has a very strong pro-immigrant editorial policy too.
And always
has.
I think
they always has, and I think they understand the issue, and I think they understand that that the new readers of the daily news, at least locally, are the immigrants.
Now, how many languages do you now answer calls in?
Oh, we answer calls in about 60 or 70 languages, mainly through the utilization of our volunteer corps. What we do is we have a chart, electronic chart, and people call in and they ask for a language. We find the person in the building who speaks that particular language.
How do you train folks who are virtually amateurs, who may not have any substantive knowledge in the area, to be at least familiar enough to provide at least smart referrals to certain people?
That's a great question. We get it a lot. We want to make sure everyone understands that what we do is to provide very high quality information. And the way we do that is we have an all-day training that goes on that takes place a couple weeks before the call-in. We also have a very well-designed and well-written training manual that people can use to prepare, and also as a guide and resource guide when they're on the phone. Mm-hmm. So the way it works is this. The people are trained, they have a basic understanding of what the rules are. They answer the phone. They try and get some information from the individual who's calling. If it's a simple question they can answer, like where can I get free citizenship help, they should be able to look that up. If they can't answer the question, they hold up a stop sign. Now, the stop sign means that they need an attorney who's experienced in immigration law to come and speak with them.
And you have?
We have a ratio. We had 48 phone lines. We have one attorney for every 4 to 5 phone answers. These are all people who are senior immigration law experts. This year we had 16 people from the firm of Fragment Del Rey, the leading immigration firm in the country. Some of their partners came, some of their associates came, but they're all very highly trained and skilled. And they stand around and wait for people to raise the stop sign. So that by doing it this way, we make sure that people get high quality, expert information. It's all free. And it's also empowering for the volunteers because they're learning through the experience. They're networking with other people because these volunteers come from all over New York City. They speak every language, as you mentioned, 60, 70 languages, every ethnicity. And it's a really great networking opportunity for them.
And you do this for a week, generally in the spring, in April or May.
That's right. Usually we do it at the end of April. It's a week-long program. It goes from 9 to 7. Now, this year and the past year, we partner with the National Organization of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials Education Fund.
Yep.
They have a phone bank in Los Angeles. And what we did is we sent the phone answerers that they have out there that work for them full-time, they're paid people, they took our training online. They watched our training online. It was live streamed. We sent 2 of our staff attorneys out there to supervise and answer questions. And the call answerers there just answer the phone, Citizenship Now, as if they were in New York. So sort of a remote facility. That way when we had overflows in New York City, we were able to catch the calls in California. So that's an innovation. We hope that next year, in an election year, when so many people are going to want to become citizens, we can expand on that effort. We can focus on citizenship, focus on helping people naturalize. We use a national database for making referrals. So by zip code, we can find whatever community you live in, anywhere in America, we can find someone that can provide free or low-cost help. If you can afford a private attorney, we can do those referrals as well. We want to use trade unions and other community-based organizations that have phone banks like this, and see if we can hook it up and maybe have 100 phone lines.
You're really talking about going national in a way.
I think so. I think in an election year, I think citizenship and immigration law is national. It's the same in Kansas and California as it is in New York. There's no reason not to do it that way. The resources out there, the model has been perfected. We were a little nervous about how this might work, but the overflow calling, it worked out just fine. The people in LA were fantastic. So we think we're ready to do it. We think we're ready to go on a large scale, and I think it makes sense. I think it's the next step.
Given the fact that we're in May of 2015, and in 6 months you're going to have, national politics really intruding. When do you, in a sense, kick it up with this program?
Well, I think you start kicking it up at the beginning of 2016. Most parts of the country, you're going to need 4 to 6 months from the time you file your application until you can become a citizen.
Right.
So you're going to want to start working with people. Certainly, the latest is in April. We're not sure exactly when we're going to do it next year.
Oh, okay.
But we want people to be able to. we're going to start sort of marketing this whole effort, and because we do this every day. I mean, we help people with citizenship every day,
right.
And we hope to increase our citizenship efforts again beginning January 2016.
Now, I mean, just having read the Daily News reports of your Citizenship Now, what was really striking was, you know, the appearance of Governor Cuomo, and not only his appearance, but what he said. I mean, quote, he called the CUNY Daily News call-in, quote, the distillation of the best of New York. And he also pledged that he would work ferociously for the New York State Dream Act. Let's start talking about the various proposals out there, both on the national level, the state level, and the local level. Let's start, if you will, at the top. In November of, I guess, 2012, President Obama issues an executive order, DACA, D-A-C-A, and that did what? Because it caused a huge brouhaha. It led to a court case. A judge in Texas has a temporary restraining order. Explain the politics and the process.
So, in June 15th, 2012, the president announced his program. And he said that anyone who had been in the United States, was not yet age 31, who had been in the United States for 5 years, and who had come to the United States before the age of 16 could get a temporary legal status.
Which means what?
So
what does temporary legal status mean?
It means that the person can stay here and is protected from deportation, provided they don't commit a crime or they don't. But just the fact that they're being here is not going to, without others' legal.
So they
status,
can be undocumented.
They can be. They're basically still considered undocumented by the government. They don't like to use the word status. That they're still considered undocumented, but they're protected from deportation. But they also get employment authorization, which means that they can get a driver's license in most states, which means that they can work. So. These individuals who came forward, over 700,000 who benefited from that program, they have employment authorization. They're becoming part and parcel of society. It's valid for 2 years. People are just now getting their renewals after the first 2 years. Then in November of 2014, the president announced an expanded program.
Okay.
Right? The expanded program, first of all, it said you had to be in the United States by January 1st, 2010, so it moved up the period a little bit, included a bigger group. It also took the age cap off, so it didn't matter if you were over 31. You could still qualify if you came to the United States.
And this is all done by executive order?
All done by executive order.
Because the Congress ain't going to move.
Because the Congress isn't going to move. That's exactly right. The president said, if Congress isn't going to do it, I'm going to do what I can within my executive powers.
And they ain't going to do it.
And I think Congress is not going to do it. Certainly not. I mean, it doesn't appear that it's going to happen anytime soon. After 2016, you never really know. It depends how the debate shapes up. Depends who the candidate is on the Republican Party.
It also depends on who controls the Senate and the House.
That's right. You know, I'm not optimistic, but it's not out of the question that there could be some kind of solution. So the president makes his, and the other thing he did is he added a new group, the parents of U.S. citizens and permanent residents. A lot of people think if you have a child born here, you automatically qualify for a benefit. You don't.
No.
So the child has to be at least age 21 and a U.S. citizen to petition for a parent. So here you have people who have children born here. They may be 5, 6, 7, 8. They're in school. They basically made a life here. Maybe have 2 or 3 children, but they don't qualify for any kind of legal status. They don't have the right to be here, and they don't have employment authorization. The president said he was going to grant that to them. And if they were here by January 1st, 2010, and they had this permanent resident or U.S. citizen child, what they call the expanded DACA program, the program for youth, was to go into effect February 18th, and the expanded
of this year.
Of this year.
Right.
And then the expanded program for parents, what they're calling DAPA, would have taken place in right around now.
And then didn't happen.
Would
what
have
happened
didn't happen
instead?
Because 26 states went to federal court and they challenged the executive order, and they claimed that it would impact the economies of their states. Now, most people think that was not a very strong argument, but nevertheless, they had a very conservative and restrictionist judge, a judge who had openly made comments and statements about the border.
The Texas
and
judge, absolutely.
The Texas judge who lives near the border, who had complained publicly about the administration's border programs. So this judge enjoined or stopped this decision, this plan of the president's from going forward on a very technical grounds, and that is that the president should have gone through the regulatory process. He didn't have the right to just make a decision as the executive. Now, don't forget, this is already 2 years into the other plan, the original plan, and that had been challenged unsuccessfully. But this judge did stop this plan. There was a stay requested there was an appeal taken to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the next level.
This was done by a district level judge in Texas.
That's right.
And then there was an appeal to the circuit, the Court of Appeals in that area.
That's right. And also the federal government sought a stay, meaning to basically throw out the lower court's order temporarily until there's a final decision.
Wow.
That's what a stay means. And that stays pending. So while we're talking here, it could be there's an announcement that there's going to be a stay, although most scholars think it unlikely. The three-court panel that heard that argument has two members who are very, very conservative and have not been very friendly to immigrants.
So you're going to see your guess is that the federal government's appeal is denied.
I mean, let's just assume that happens. I mean, many scholars think that. I'm a little bit more optimistic than some because, first of all, it's been a long time we're still waiting to hear, and it's been several weeks already. And also, there was a 2-hour oral argument on the stay, which is very unusual. Usually, stays are done on paper. So I'm a little more optimistic. But most people think it's not going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then there's going to have to be a decision on the case itself from that same circuit. That's going to take several more months. And the pessimistic view is that it could be a year or two before we get a final decision on this.
But it could come smack in the middle of the presidential campaign.
It could come smack in the middle of the presidential campaign.
That could be a bomb.
It could be a bomb. Well, candidate Clinton has said that she would not only support and continue the fight for the president's program, in addition to supporting immigration reform, but also that she would expand the program. For instance,
yeah, I mean, and the New York Times called it Hillary Clinton takes the lead on immigration. I mean, she went well beyond what Obama suggested in terms of policy and said she would expand it. So exactly what did she say, and what is the impact of what she said, if any?
Well, there's two things she said. One, she said that there needs to be a more humane deportation and detention policy, and there's been a lot of criticism of the Obama administration, I think well-founded criticism, for the not implementing his promise to only deport people who had serious criminal violations. That's what he said he would do. That's not what he's done. And also the detention of unaccompanied minors, and now they let those people go, but now they're detaining the mothers and children who have come together from Latin America, and it's in not such wonderful conditions.
Why? I mean,
they have a legal authority to do so, and I guess the argument is that they're making is this a way of discouraging people to coming. So if you treat people too nice, it just encourages more people to come. But the fact is that the push factor out of these countries is so extreme that people are going to come anyway. So I'm not sure that's a very smart plan. But in any event, that's the thesis behind it. But the other thing she said is that she would expand the Deferred Action Program for the parents of people who got the youth deferred action called DACA, which makes a lot of sense.
So we're really in the weeds here. So we've got DACA and DAPA.
That's
so
right.
We have both the children and then the parents would be in some ways protected from deportation,
which is very, very important. I mean, some people minimize it. They say, well, it's only for 2 years. It's a limited status. But my view of it is that when you have these people working and out of the closet, and you find out that the soccer coach at your girls' soccer team is from Latin America, happens to be undocumented, but now he has this DACA, so he's looking for a job. You start to see the integration that exists of the undocumented population in our society. And also, of course, we know that the owning class, the employing class, is the most powerful class in America. So now you're going to have all these people working. So they have employers who care about them and want them to stay here. So it's a positive thing. And the one thing, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say about Hillary Clinton's statements is that it really throws down the gauntlet to the Republicans. The Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, two of the leading candidates.
And they walked back totally.
They have walked back. But, You know, they were supportive. Marco Rubio supported the comprehensive immigration reform that Senator Schumer supported.
Right.
By the way, Senator Schumer came to, you didn't mention him, I just want to give a shout out to him. He's come to every call-in since the very beginning.
Uh-oh.
And you left him off your
Uh-oh.
list. And now...
My apologies.
Now if he's going to be the head of the Democratic Party in the Senate, we want him back.
Okay, I'm not going to change the lead, but I'm glad that you offered that corrective.
So I think she's really she's created a real difficulty by taking such a strong stand, because on the one hand, yes, there are people in the country who are not comfortable with that, but my view about immigration reform is that the haters are very small. And many people who disagree with it, it's not an important issue to them. So it's not going to be a deal breaker for Hillary. On the other hand, it really puts Rubio and Bush into a really difficult position, because they supported immigration reform. Now all of a sudden they don't. So which is it? Is it the old Rubio or is it the new Rubio? Is it the old Jeb Bush, who said that an undocumented immigrant coming to America is an act of love, or is it the new Jeb Bush that says that no, these people should only get indefinite legal status?
Well, those two have a problem, but somebody like Walker is consistently opposed to it, and in some senses he appears to be opposed to legal immigration.
Well, that's right. He does seem to be he wants to cut back on legal immigration. I don't think it's going to fly very well. I don't think, we do all this talking about the Statue of Liberty. I don't think anti-immigrant sentiment runs very deep in the United States, especially when the economy is picking up. You know, if you look at historically, the thing that's moved people to be most restrictionist is fear that people are taking their jobs away.
Always.
So with the economy now, with unemployment down below 5.5%, if it continues to go down, if it goes down to 5% or someplace close to it by the time of the election, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it's going to be an issue for the Latinos and the Asians who came out big for Obama in the last election. For them, it's an issue.
Right.
For the average American, I don't think it's a cutting-edge issue. I don't think it's something they care most about. They're going to be caring about jobs, the economy, and war.
But you're saying that differentially it should benefit the Democrats because there are more intense folks on that side of the issue.
Yeah, it's a no-lose. It's like people who care about guns vote against people who are against guns, but people who are against guns don't vote on the gun issue. So It's the same thing around immigration.
Okay. One of the things, one more Hillary Clinton, and then I want to move on to Cuomo and de Blasio. She says that a path to citizenship is a family issue. And she stated it over and over again in her speech in Las Vegas. And subsequently, she's creating a narrative here. She's using the word family as an evocative term. And I think if she can successfully define it as such, it may go a long way. I don't know if people will buy it, but that's the argument that Mario Cuomo made in his '84 convention speech, Obama essentially made in his 2004. Does the framing of the issue, do you think it makes any difference, or is it all hardcore ideology and it doesn't matter?
Oh, I think the framing issue is very important. I think that if we look at immigrants as we look at our parents and grandparents and our great-grandparents as people coming here striving for a better life, wanting to join this wonderful community of the United States of America, you create that kind of narrative. It's obviously a very positive, welcoming narrative. If you create a narrative that these people are, committing crimes and taking your jobs away, obviously that's a much more negative narrative. So I think the narrative is important, and I think she's going to make some progress with it. If you look at for instance, look at the religious community, even the religious right, developing a much more pro-immigrant point of view. So especially if the religious community unites around these issues, the large denominations, which all have made major positive statements, and Hillary just keeps pressing forward, I think she'll be fine around the issue. I think the issue will work for her very, very well. Okay, let's move to the local level. Bill de Blasio, his record. Let's look at, in a sense, the budget, and also this Office of Immigrant Affairs, which is sort of the place in city government that specifically focuses on what's going on. How's de Blasio doing? Well, I think that it's at least in the modern era, the era that I've lived through, it's really a renaissance. It's something new and special that's going on with the de Blasio administration. First of all, he hired appointed a really terrific Commissioner of Immigrant Affairs, Nisha Agarwal. And I say terrific because not only does she have the smarts, which other people did, I mean, she has talent, to excess, but the previous commissioner, Fatima, Shama also had a tremendous amount of talent. But Agarwal came to the job with a lot of experience and knowledge that no one else has had coming into the job. She's the first really immigrants' rights activist ever to be appointed to the position. So in addition to her talent, she knows the issue.
Yep.
Secondly, she's gotten great support from Blasio. I mean, that office is expanding. It's doing all kinds of wonderful things.
Yeah, it's got lots of people, money,
they got
program.
money, they got people, and they're doing the right thing. They're spending a lot of time reaching out to community-based organizations, to all the major legal service providers in the city, including CUNY, but others as well, Legal Aid Society, NILAG, Catholic Charities, and talking to them about what's the best way to go forward, working with the community groups, trying to figure out how to deal with these the situation with the President's Program at a big event on April 12th at Temple Emmanuel, where they helped over 460 people. So, it's really a terrific thing. It's a great opportunity for the city and for immigrants. And what I'm hoping is that they'll create a baseline that any other mayor going forward will have to meet in terms of immigrant services. And it's not just the services, if I could also say on the policy and politics. You mentioned Speaker Viverito. Well, she and
my very next question.
Well, in addition to the money, which I should say that CUNY Citizenship Now gets a very generous contribution from the city budget organized through the Speaker's office to provide free citizenship assistance at city council members' offices throughout the city. We're in 30 offices providing services on site in those offices. But in addition to that, in the policy arena, they've done some wonderful things. This ID NYC that's come out,
the municipal
ID, it's a terrific program. They got it. They did it for free.
Yep.
They got all these museums to sign up for it. Now everybody wants one, right? If you have papers, you don't have papers. The effort to keep the police from turning in people who have not been convicted of crimes to the Immigration Service who are undocumented, very, very important. The money that has gone to deportation defense. This is something that's always really hard to get money for. First of all, it's labor intensive. Second of all, some of the people, not all, but some of the people do have criminal records. These are family members, like you're talking about the family narrative. These are the parents of U.S. citizen children, the brothers and sisters of U.S. citizen children, the children of immigrants who are elderly, who they're supporting. And, these are people that need assistance. And to get money for deportation defense is really a huge political contribution.
Okay. So, in close, you're optimistic on the local level, not optimistic, particularly on the national level, and you have to come back in 6 months to tell us how successful you've been in motivating people to vote?
Well, we're still hoping the DREAM Act in New York State, you mentioned it in your introduction, it's not an impossibility. It's not easy, and of course the Republican Senate doesn't seem to be so anxious to pass it, but you never know.
My thanks to Allan Wernick for the success of the longstanding Citizenship Now program and the CUNY Dreamers. Join me next week here on CUNY TV. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.